The DPS meta is dead. The times are changing, and anyone out there that isn't prepared for that is going to have an absolutely horrible time when patch 1.6 goes live. Stick around and I'll tell you exactly why this is the case, exactly how to prepare for it, and show you the gist of what I'm getting at when I say that the DPS meta and the DPS builds are in for a rough time. Setting out to prove this subject and this topic and this point of view, we actually ran a bombardment of tests, and it's going to be difficult for me to condense and distill all that information down, but I'm going to do my best. So if I trip over my words, I apologize. I started by building a 4-piece Alpha Bridge set with the Specialized Backpack and the Savage Gloves. This has very high base meter DPS, very high base toughness. You spec primarily into stamina, with just enough firearms to unlock gun talents, running 2 assault rifles. This is the standard meta DPS build at this time. The health pool is over 200,000. There are some very important characteristics to note about your heal. I'll get to that in a second here. One being the base cooldown, as that has changed, and number 2 being the base heal amount. As you can see, about 70,000 on the self-heal amount because I have some self-heal mods, and 42 seconds on the cooldown. This, again, is the standard DPS build that most players are running in the Dark Zone. This is about as cookie cutter as you can possibly get. And this is what I was going to use as my baseline in order to prove the subject that I believe DPS builds are not only dying, but officially dead when 1.6 launches, and it may get even worse before the PTS ends. For talents, I went with the industry standard of crit save, on the move, strike back, and one is none while running solo in order to try and best display the baseline for a standard DPS build. For a nice easy testing location, I used the beginning of the Lexington Event Center mission. I used the standard style of play. I wasn't necessarily hip firing as much as some people, but that's because my aim is bad. And my aim is bad across all the different segments of this test, so I'm sorry if that's a variable that some people disagree with. It's something that I couldn't eliminate. I tried my best, though, to make it as good a study as possible. Now, I am running up. I do aim down sights. I'm killing the enemies very easily. When I do need to heal, I can pop something like a medkit, get crit save. I can get on the move triggered, which is 30% decreased damage from incoming sources after I kill an NPC while moving. I can stack up all these different mitigation bonuses to very high numbers. And my booster shot does do a lot of health and give me bonus mitigation. As you can see there, 1.3 million toughness. It's very easy to get, very tanky. You have high damage. And there's a reason why this is the most efficient DPS build in patch 1.5, and that's why I used this section of the mission as a baseline. Now we jump over to the PTS, where I have built the same build, or relatively the same. You're going to notice the same pieces of gear. I have the Specialized Backpack, pretty much the same main stats, up over 400,000 toughness. I have less DPS, but that's because they actually made changes to how many talents are active on Alpha Bridge. Using the same skills, I have higher cooldowns, much higher cooldowns, and the heals actually heal for a largely reduced amount. Everything about this standard DPS build took a nerf, but that is not just true of Alpha Bridge, that is true of all DPS builds. Even the talents that give bonus damage resistance also took a nerf. Everything has been downtuned, and now let's jump into the actual gameplay. Started off running in the same way, basically playing the exact same way that I did on console with the same build in the live game in patch 1.5. As you can see, I'm still melting enemies. It's not like I'm lacking damage, there's nothing wrong with it there. But I start to take damage from other sources, I move on, I start shooting, and I have no way to really heal back up, and I don't gain as much mitigation. However, I was lagging, I end up taking cover here, and I just went down and flopped, and I said, okay, you know what, that's a bad study. I can't just do a one-off and call it, definitive. I played badly, there was some lag, let's do another one. I went in, I started off again, and I figured it can be cleared, I just have to play smarter. I started trading, I started moving, I tried to break line of sight, mitigate some of the damage through not actually taking those bullets as damage. I figured I could melt them down one at a time, be a little bit smarter with how I played. And sure enough, I started to do a lot better. I melted them down. But as you can see, when I healed, it did next to nothing. When I actually healed, if you go back and take an in-depth look, my heal basically didn't do a single thing. I jumped up like a 15th of my health bar. That's on a 54-second timer, which is nearly a minute without a heal, and it doesn't heal for very much at all. And it didn't really contribute to me, excelling through the content. I figured, okay, let's run it again. I was able to clear it, so I'm not saying that DPS builds don't have any value at all. I'm not saying that DPS builds are useless. I'm just saying that they have stepped out of the spotlight. As you can see, I'm still able to melt NPCs, no problem there. But my heal does nothing. Even when I proc critical save with my medkit, my mitigation is nowhere near what it used to be. I'm not able to just, face tank crazy amounts of damage like I was previously able to in patch 1.5. A lot has changed, and I think that it's a good thing, but it also may have swung too far. The pendulum may have gone too far in the other direction. I figured let's go through it again, and let's actually show the numbers this time so we can see another visible area where the nerfs have, come into play, and where the changes are actually taking tangible effect. So I melt down a few enemies. This is the one where I actually demonstrate, I believe, how much toughness I have. I kill another one, I proc on the move, I proc crit save, and as you can see, my toughness is only 825,000. There's a lot of reasons why the DPS builds are taking a hit. Now let's move to the other side of the coin. It's important to note I am not running a rapid chest piece. That would decrease the cooldowns on my heals even further. There's a lot of ways that you could, min-max a skill build even further, and I believe that skill builds are absolutely going to take front and center stage and blow DPS builds out of the water in patch 1.6 for utility and value. Let's look at the values on my heal. As you can see, I have 345,000 self-heal on Overdose. The cooldowns are tiny. I have 9.6 seconds on Defibrillator, and Defibrillator actually gives you a heal over time. So if I decided to run the Vigorous chest piece, which I'm not even running, I could then have a constant heal over time that I can replenish and would also give me a full overheal. I have a very low base health pool. I've spec'd entirely into electronics, but look at these healing values. Very low cooldowns, very high healing numbers, and you can just spam these out to not only you, but your entire team. This is with a 4-piece tack build, again, without the rapid chest piece that would decrease, healing cooldowns even further. Your skill power is up over 400,000. There's a lot of ways where this is the most valuable thing to be running in the new patch. Jumping over to some 1v1s with one of my UE team members, Jazz, we're going to see that I am able to actually beat him because of the sustained damage output from the turret. Now, my skill power is so high that I can heal constantly. He can never get me low enough. I always have a full overdose heal on cooldown, or off of cooldown, I should say. And my turret is constantly dealing between 3,000 and 5,000 damage to him in the form of rapid per bullet damage shots. As long as I put it in a position where it has a 360-degree view, he's never going to be able to outsustain me. His heal does next to nothing because he's running a standard DPS build. He's not augmented by a healer, and he has no way to keep himself alive. Even when I put my turret in a horrible position where half of the map is not visible to it, all I have to do is break line of sight. It doesn't matter what it's behind. It can be behind a car, a truck, anything. You can take cover, and you can actually force enemies to take cover with this as well. And the turret is just one way to deal this damage. I can just kite him around. I'm using a Historian. You don't even have to use that. You don't even have to ever damage him at all. Due to his lack of healing ability, anytime he were to come closer and try and damage me, he's unable to do so because of my turret. Now, another thing to note is that the turret has almost 1,000,000 health. My turret has at least 800,000 health before getting any of the tack bonus. And not only that, but my turret actually procs the tack bonus and then consumes it itself in order to get stronger. The turret, I do believe, will receive a down tune. It's way too strong right now. The range is practically an entire city block. It's huge. And it's really nice to see it be valuable, but I don't want to see it actually become something that consumes the meta. Right now, there's nothing that can really beat it. It can hit you from down the street. It stacks the tack for you. It consumes the tack. It does tremendous amounts of damage, and it allows you to dictate the pacing of the fight. Even when he comes up, I believe he actually pops a tack link here, and as you can see, he's dealing relatively no damage to my actual turret. He's not going to be able to kill it. Even an entire team of enemy agents firing at your turret isn't going to be able to drop it. This value is true of all of your skills. If you switch over to something like Smart Cover with this high skill power, again, this can be augmented even further. This is without any of the 30% tack bonus. You have 60% damage resistance just on your base Smart Cover. If you augment that with performance mods, it's even higher. There's a lot of reasons why any skill that you choose to run is going to be hyper effective. If I use pure skill power and pure electronics in my build and then go onto my Smart Cover, I can achieve as much, if not far more, than an actual dedicated tank build who specs primarily into stamina. Skill power and electronics right now is going to consume the metagame. It is much more powerful than anything else out there, and this is again true of all the skills that you run. Your Seeker Mines will deal tremendous amounts of burst damage. Your Sticky Bomb deals tremendous amounts of burst damage. Your heals, the utility is off the charts. Your support station, the utility, again, the healing, off the charts. It is important right now, and I would urge everyone out there to stop speccing primarily DPS, get used to running something else because you're going to have to. If you want to have value to your teammates, if you want to have value in an incursion, you're not going to be able to spec into just DPS and then expect everyone else in your group to help you through that, because if everyone runs DPS, let's put it this way, you're not going to have a prayer in hell of actually completing the incursion without a dedicated reclaimer support, without multiple people running strong heals. And if you go into the Dark Zone, you're probably going to get shredded because you have no sustain. If everyone's running DPS, they have no healing. They have no utility. And everyone out there needs to start getting used to the fact that skill power builds are probably going to be the meta and be stronger than DPS builds in a lot of different respects once patch 1.6 goes live. I hate to say this though, and this is the final verdict right now, I believe that the pendulum may have swung just a little bit too far in the opposite direction. We wanted to move away from standard DPS, we wanted to move towards skill power builds, we wanted to make sure that they were viable, and Massive and Red Storm have done that, but it may be just a little bit too far because right now turrets deal too much damage. Smart cover is extremely valuable. I haven't even begun to tap into the potential of smart cover and how high it can really get in damage mitigation. There's going to be ways now that I'm building into this skill power build on the PTS, and I'll be live streaming it, where you can probably break the game in really untold ways now that you can get these different numbers. And I'll be trying to do it. I'll be trying to use the PTS to make the game better. But I wanted to put this out there and warn everyone that the DPS meta, the 4-man DPS squad meta, is dead. It's completely dead. And unless something drastic changes on the PTS, it isn't coming back, and people should get used to running alternative mechanics, healing builds, support builds, smart cover, things like that, maybe even a turret. That's going to be the way to excel and complete the new content to the best of your ability. So thank you guys for watching. If you want to support the channel, please check out the links below. We have a vibrant Facebook community. I would urge everyone out there to join up. We're expanding into different games. We got the For Honor beta that's happening right now, a lot of other things. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure that you're integrating yourself with upper echelon because we got big plans for the future. And as always, have a nice night.